I mean, it doesn't work out in every occasion, obviously. We want to do the best that we possibly can for every client that we have and every client that comes to the door. So you have that vetting process that you were mentioning, and you kind of talk about things at the front end, and you hope everything's going to work out long term. But once you get into the business, it's kind of like a marriage. We get all sorts of people that are interested in coming to business with us. The majority of our business comes through word of mouth. So, we're connected with you now, which we have a great relationship that's building, and we love to connect with other people. But at the same time, we want to be referenced by you, for example, to other people, and vice versa. We want you to get a reference about us from other clients. That's the best way that we've learned to really build relationships. So, in client and building our client inventory, because, then you come to understanding who we are, what we're about, what you're getting yourself into, rather than, just being one of the top big dogs and getting a name out that way and not really having any frame of reference as to why they're coming to you in the first place. So that's the biggest way that we build our business, for example.
Yeah. That's a really good point there. So when you get into a relationship with someone, obviously, there's a bit of a process. Ours was a little bit faster, but how do you, so you're getting owners, they typically have some kind of structure behind what they're doing. And so does your company. How do you guys mesh the two? Because that can be a challenge in itself. You got maybe a company with a different culture over here. You guys have your processes and systems built. That can be challenging. What's your guys' secret to making that work?
Well, I mean, it doesn't work out in every occasion, obviously. We want to do the best that we possibly can for every client that we have and every client that comes to the door. So you have that vetting process that you were mentioning, and you kind of talk about things at the front end, and you hope everything's going to work out long term. But once you get into the business, it's kind of like a marriage. It's you got a relationship that you're starting, whether you're a newlywed and you're just getting started, or this is your second marriage. I mean, you're coming into the relationship with trust issues and things that you really need to learn about each other, and that happens over the course of a long time. Obviously, we have some clients that we've had for over 30 years, some relationships that are really, really long. The business that we have has been around for over 40 years. So our relationships, stem back to that time. And it's all about, in my opinion, and I think that all of the people in our company and our founder would agree with this, is that it's all about first choosing the right people that you have working for you and at the top of your organization. People with character that is, deeply embedded in with integrity, and people that are going to do the right things at all times, and also, that they have that drive to do things right and to do the best that they possibly can in their business. Because, you can have integrity, but if you're not driven to do a good job for an asset that at the end of the day is not yours, you're managing it for somebody else, then it really doesn't matter how honest you are or how good you are, you're going to fall short for what the client is looking for.
In hindsight, when we first got started, we were much too hands-off with our property managers. We were like, wow, the property managers really, we need to empower them to manage everything. And so we basically just, looked at numbers and reports early on. And now in looking at other of our peers, there's many of them, I mean, not all of them, but some of them are almost, integrated somehow with our property manager, like in a weird point. But the bottom line is that most experienced syndicators, us now also, are much more actively involved with our property management company before. So there's maybe two extremes, right? One's too hands off, one's too involved. Where is the sweet spot for you? What does that look like? What do you see working between property managers and owners?
I wish I could give one answer to that, but it's every client, every management asset management company is different. Every management company is different. But for us, as long as we go into the relationship understanding that there's going to be some trials that come up, and we're just going to do our best to talk through them. We're going to do our best to work through them. We're going to be transparent and honest about the things that are causing us hassles and we want you as a ownership group to be transparent and honest with us with the things that are causing you, the most amount of worries at night as well. I think that the sweet spot really comes down to anything that is going to impact the team's ability to get the job done or to spend time with their teams or their clientele, then you might be overstepping your boundaries. Because if you're hindering us from doing the job that you're paying us to do, whether it's working with our team members or it is working with our residents, then we're going to have a challenge performing for you. If we're spending so much time on phone calls, because there's, a lot of situations where there's a lot of lengthy phone calls that, you want to get all the information you possibly can. Well, every minute that we're spending on the time with the client, we're not spending that time developing our team, and we're not spending our time, working on these relationship buildings with our residents as well. They're all crucial. We need to be able to keep you informed. You need to understand what's going on in your properties. We totally understand that. But at the same time, there does need to be a nice, healthy balance of giving us our time to make sure that we're performing for you the best.
Typically, they're coming with, I would assume you're getting clients that are coming to you with broken properties. It's not, they're typically coming to you because they had a bad experience somewhere else and they're looking for a solution. So your guys' job essentially is to come in and figure out the problem with the property or properties and fix them. What is your guys' kind of process for analyzing that and then working towards a solution?
Well, the first step is always to get the most amount of intel that we can from you, and that, what you're bringing to us. That is crucial, because every property is different, and every property, whether it's a new property that we're going through due diligence on and we're onboarding and you have no experience on that property, or it's a property that you do have experience on, the information is vital. So we need as much information as possible, step one, to be able to get the job done as best as possible. I think the process is, really just diving in, learning the property on our own, obviously, and talking and working with the people that are on site. Hopefully you'll be able to maintain a strong manager that's on the site when you take it over, because that obviously, as everybody knows, can do a lot of damage to a property. One person can bring a property down pretty fast. So hopefully you've got a nice connection, whether it's on the maintenance side or on the property management side, that can really give you the information you need so that you can build off of that and you're not working from scratch.
Yeah, I remember we had one of our more challenging properties in this was before you guys, but it was in Arkansas. We couldn't figure it out. We're like, this is just the most challenging property ever. And we sat there and it was like, okay, that site staff has never been right. And the first thing we had to do, even though it was painful, was fix that. Once that was fixed, it's like, okay, then things got better. And we've seen that kind of progression over and over again, where it's like, you have to focus on fixing the staff. And one of the cool things about when we moved over to First Communities is we were like, you know what, these guys have economies of scale inside of the market that we're in mostly. So, being able to have those kind of resources on a local level is, I think, super important as an owner. You want to have those kind of abilities to tap in. What kind of market, I guess your market like dynamic have you guys, or the inflection into the market, have you guys been able to make in order to attract clients inside of Atlanta?
Well, most of what we've been able to do inside of Atlanta, again, goes back to word of mouth. We have established a very strong relationship for a long period of time in this market. This is where we started. This is where we were founded. So this is where we kind of got going, and people know us for that. So thankfully, this market is a pretty easy one for us to handle. Now, if you start to ask us what we're doing on other markets, it's a little bit more complicated. We want to make sure that we understand the market well before we just dive into that market.
So how do you guys select what markets you're going to go into?
A lot of times we won't even go into a market if we don't have a presence there in the first place. We are in markets where we have some one-off properties and they're challenging. In fact, right now I'm going through a challenging property that's in another state, and it's alone by itself. And there's no one there to go pick up the pieces when things fall apart. So, you don't have an on-site team ready to jump into that. A regional team ready to go in there and start fixing the problem. So thankfully, again, with Atlanta, we have a big bench here. We have a lot of properties. We have a lot of people that we can kind of pull on as resources. We can depend on each other from a corporate level, regional level, to figure out solutions to problems. But if we have a property unless unless that we feel we have a long relationship with a client or a good established relationship with a client, we likely would not go into a market that is a one-off market. We would select markets where
it puts you guys behind a little bit because you're like, listen, we just don't have the resources here. Realistically, we'll do it as a favor type situation, but we're starting behind the 8 ball here because we just don't have the same influence inside of the market. There's other people that may have those relationships already built that exist. So using your guys' strengths, how do you guys really lean into your strengths in that capacity? How are you building benches, and what kind of resources are you able to obtain being local in a market?
Yeah, so this is the most challenging thing that we have going on. And one of the things that we have going on in meetings, every single time we meet from a corporate level, we're talking about how we could build our bench, how we can strengthen our bench, and how we can, use our resources. And honestly, I can't tell you how many conversations that we have about this ongoing. Right. What we want to do is make sure that we have access and we're using the best technology possible to be able to attract the people that are out there. I don't want to get into too many details, but we're exploring some things right now. We're just willing to do whatever it takes to outsource, people into our environment and try to make connections that will help us build our especially on the maintenance side, where we're having the most amount of troubles. I mean, we've tossed around ideas like schools and tech schools and building those and, outsourcing people from other countries. I mean, we're thinking of everything that we possibly can to build our bench.